Okay, we're on the air. Today I am joined for the third time by S-Man Speaks, well known to this channel, and as I am to his. And we're going to be debating the ethics of punching Nazis. S-Man, you have the floor. You can begin.
Alrighty. How's the audio, by the way? Because I know the second time everyone's ears were bleeding from the my bad mistake of having the wrong earbuds.
It's all good. It's crisp, clear. I can hear
All right.
fine.
Yep, I'm using the same type of earbuds you got. So, anyway,
Mm.
um, I want to point out to everyone because I just so no one can strawman me here. Nazis are the dumbest people alive. They are intellectually inferior, as Ben Shapiro once said, or at least I think it was him who said it. They, quite frankly, yes, they do pose a risk to people if we don't challenge their ideas. But the problem is with punching them, it's going to embolden them to say, it's going to embolden them to retaliate. So, for instance, if I ran up to a Nazi and I punched him in his stupid face, keep in mind that disrespecting Nazis is cool by me, by the way, that person would be justified, in a sense, to retaliate physically. For instance, that Nazi could, if he had a weapon on me, he could shoot me in the face, and he'd be justified, because I attacked him first. And while yes, it does create a bit of a problem as to when to intervene. If the Nazi is just standing there and you run up and punch him, he didn't do anything in the eyes of the law to attack you. So, unless someone would have a death wish, go ahead and run up and punch that Nazi, but, if that person kills you or at least injures you in self-defense, I'm pretty sure the law would say justified. Now, when it comes to the legality, I'm pretty sure, as much as some law enforcement might agree with you punching the Nazi, it's illegal to punch Nazis because it's called aggravated assault. And the person who ran up and punched Richard Spencer, I don't know if he was charged with anything. I don't know if he was even captured. I mean, yes, it was funny. It was hilarious to see Richard Spencer get punched in his face. But when you look beyond the funniness of it all and the remixes and because of the punching, you have to ask yourself, is it really necessary to punch people who you don't agree with in the face? Now, I understand your buddy Kevin Logan, hashtag free Kev, said this was a straw man, and in reality, it's really not. I mean, obviously, Nazis are people you don't agree with, but you have to ask yourself, do you really need to escalate it to punch them in the face? Because they're just saying stupid stuff. They're not really harming anyone. I mean, if we let those ideas fester and we don't challenge them and everything like that, then it could get, and you punch them, you're going to escalate it further than it needs to go. But it definitely would raise the problem of when do we intervene? Hold on a second. Just gotta check the time to see how long I've been going on for. I don't know how long I've been speaking, but I feel like I've gone long enough with my opening statement. So I'm gonna hand the floor over to Owen.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting opening statement. And we'll go back right to the start. You made the initial point of saying that Nazis are dumb and that there is a risk of having them around because it endangers people. And that's very true. It's obviously the important thing to know is that Nazism is a deeply flawed, insipid, horrid ideology, and it's important to not allow it any credibility. However, just saying it's dumb and saying it's wrong isn't enough. As we've seen throughout history, the far right don't really get affected by people labeling their ideology as bad because they know full well it's bad. But Hitler knew exactly what he was doing when he wrote Mein Kampf, when he labeled the Jews as the problem in the Weimar Republic. He knew what Nazism was. So just labeling it as bad and laughable, like the Germans did, or like many in the German political establishment did, isn't enough. Because as we saw, the lack of opposition to Hitler in Germany and the sort of half-heartedness the German opposition did do within the government led to Hitler's rise and his eventual control of Germany. Coming on to emboldening Nazis by punching them. I mean, the far right are already emboldened. I mean, the political climate at the moment is very much of right wing and far right as a result of that growth. Look at the discourse since Trump, and even like in the build-up to Trump's election. Like Trump has allowed the far right a platform once again. Look at people like Lauren Southern, who are now openly like sailing to around Europe trying to stop migrant ships. Like that is illegal behavior, but loads of people are happy to raise money for that to happen. like there's far right parties and far right individuals feeling more and more emboldened every day. So to say that punching is just going to suddenly embolden them even more is like, well, no, because they already got the motivation. The whole point of riots coming to sort of needing violence and needing two people who do stand up against Nazis physically is because of the already like rising far right and the hope to avoid the situation. You said that, oh well, if you just go and hit a Nazi, then they're justified in punching you back. Well, Nazis and the people, sort of people like that, they pose a threat anyway. Like
Yeah.
far right have always traditionally. If you just let me respond to all the points I have here, because
All right.
sorry to go on. It's just
No, it's fine. It's just I got to knock at the door.
Okay.
All right, hang on a second.
You need to wait and.
All right. I'll be back in. I don't know. Hold on.
Sure. Bob Liegenhart. I mean, I'll read these comments and stuff. So make sure you leave all the stuff you're posting here in the comments for me to read over another time. Back violence merely increases hate.
All right, I'm sorry, but I'm just father wanted to know if I knew where something was, but I wanted to actually clarify. Yeah, sure, calling Nazis stupid and dumb isn't enough. Like that's obviously true.
Sorry to interrupt you. If you just let me go and finish what I was saying, and then you can come back, and we'll try and start more of a conversation than just two big statements.
All right. My bad about the knocking meeting. All right.
So, you were saying that Nazis they have the right to punch you back if you punch them, and yeah, technically a person can defend themselves if they are attacked. But Nazis and the far right go out and incite violence. They often have the intention of causing trouble because that's what they like to do. That's what they want to disrupt society. So in many cases, saying they have the right to defend themselves is sort of a neutered point because it's like that was already going to happen. And you say, oh, you're going to have a death wish because they could shoot you. And yeah, there is that risk. But again, the Nazi threat poses a threat to marginalized and minority groups and people who are targeted by the Nazis and the far right. And groups like Antifa and groups that organize against this en masse do a good job of sort of being in numbers to protect themselves from this. It's obviously, like, yeah, one person just going up to like some KKK rally or something and just be like trying to attack them, that's not going to go well for them. But if it's like a group, if it's like organized groups of people doing it, then that is more effective. And you talk about escalation, and yeah, that is a big problem. But like I said earlier, it's like it's already happening. Even far right are on the ascendant, and that's why it's come to the point where we need more action. Anyway, I'll hand it back to you. We'll try and make it more direct with us talking now. So go ahead.
All right. I wanted to clarify on a point of just calling them dumb isn't enough. Well, it was just to clarify, I don't think Nazis are fine. I think they are stupid. That was just to clarify that, no, I don't defend them because the Nazis are just so great. No, it was just to clarify that. And one thing is, maybe a point, I don't know what your response would be to it, that it's illegal to punch Nazis and you would risk being arrested. And I think I may have missed some points because I had to mute and address someone in the other room. So I'd actually, if you wouldn't mind actually repeating a point or two. It was about the far right and Trump.
You want me to repeat a point, did you say?
Yeah, because I missed it because I had to quickly leave the room when I had to mute myself.
Yeah, okay. So all I said was the far right are already emboldened because of the political climate, and I used Trump as an example with his sort of legitimacy to the far right and populist nationalist groups by the way he's conducting himself and the way he's allowing credence to their arguments, and the growth of the far right across Europe. So you look at groups like the EDL, groups like Britain First in France, the quote-unquote identitarian movement and stuff, groups that are far right and are gaining in traction and support. It's like, well, before it's already growing. So proof. So saying, "Oh, punching them is going to embolden them," well, it's already on the upward trajectory anyway. So even if that was a threat of the like punching emboldening them, it's like, well, they were already emboldened, so it's actually not the case. Anyway, you go ahead.
Okay. That they're already emboldened. And I did hear a part about Lauren Southern sinking ships or something. I don't want to misquote you.
Sort of. She's not sinking ships, literally, but she's essentially going out with. Not, she's with far right groups and like neo Nazis in the Mediterranean, trying to like disrupt refugee boats and like the ships who are going out and like rescuing the refugees in the Mediterranean who are trying to like cross from not refugees, like migrants and illegal immigrants and stuff.
Oh,
And
well, I don't know all that much about Lauren Southern doing that, so I can't really offer an opinion. But if that is true, that is of course wrong, and
well, exactly. Like, of course,
yeah,
it's
like
wrong.
of course that's wrong. Like,
But what are you going to do to like stop it from happening? Because it's gaining traction. Like people aren't thinking, oh well, this is disgusting. People are thinking, oh well, she's got a point. You know, migrants are bad and stuff, and they're allowing more credibility to the rhetoric that's deeply wrong.
my mo, migrants aren't bad. Like that is true. Like there are some who do cause some problems in some countries. Of course, disrupting their travel. Like I would call that kind of harassment if you're trying to disrupt their travel. Like you're interfering. So again, I don't know the full story about Lauren Southern being involved with that. If she was literally sinking ships, then I would be saying, "Oh my God," but I can't speak all that much on it. So I'll get back to you about the whole Lauren Southern disrupting boats. But
I mean,
emboldening.
The other day, or the other week or something, she was in Paris filming people who were quote unquote un-French, and she essentially just went around and found a load of black people to film because they were obviously the first people she found.
Well, that ain't surprising, but I don't really. She'd have to really explain what the hell un-French even means.
Well, exactly. Like it's a ludicrous term, but it's the sort of things that far right are gaining traction for saying. Anyway, you think you were going to come on to something else? Hello? Oh, you must have had to deal with something at the door again. 6 people watching, more than they usually have on these live streams. I recommend going to Twitter to see the sort of criticism of Lauren Southern and her horrid actions. Sean and Jen does some good stuff regarding that. So read his what's his name? Cancerous Hooligan is in username at the moment, but he's like his logo is a.
Hang on for a sec. I gotta. Damn it.
It's okay. Yeah, as I was saying, lots of accounts on Twitter are pretty good. Spend a lot of time with it, actually. It's quite a useful tool, I find. S-Man, come on. Interestingly enough, Lauren Southern wouldn't really be able to do much if Farrett had their way. Could be a traditional woman being stuck in the house. Certainly wouldn't be on a boat, would she? But I won't tell you that now, will they? Sure, S-Man's delay will come to an end soon. Here we go.
All right. My bad. It just this tablet was at 5% and it would probably die, so need to get a charger. Just like the second debate, just like it, except with not so bad audio. Well, I think maybe I should have brought this point up earlier. It was about when people are inciting to punch Nazis. Like at core, I can get why they want to do it, and I can agree. Yeah, I mean, I can get what the point is about how Nazis are. They're of course bad, and I can get why they would feel that way about punching them. it just wouldn't like you said that Nazis, Trump or some people like that are inciting violence. I remember Trump was saying that they should carry some guy out in a stretcher if that counts as inciting violence. But wouldn't it, if people are inciting, saying we should punch Nazis, isn't that inciting violence as well?
I mean, it's not quite the same thing though. So when I say Trump is inciting violence, I don't literally mean he's going out and like explicitly saying, "Oh, you need to be fighting and stuff." But his whole approach to the issue, his way of handing legitimacy to the far right through his words and through his policies and his actions and his general sort of blasé nationalism, it does give like credibility and it gives momentum to those who do cite violence. So look at the rise in hate crime since Trump. Look at the aggression of many towards minorities and towards LGBT plus people and stuff. Like it's just it's not on. But they're getting worse and worse because of the political climate we're in. You said it's not the same thing to attack a Nazi as it is to attack another person, because like the whole point of going after the Nazis and the far right is because of their views of removing people they don't want and they see as unhuman from society. Like they see mixed race people, obviously they see people like me as white genocide and that I'm threatening the white race and stuff. Like they see LGBT people as someone as people who are like degenerate and stuff. It's like their whole view of society is to remove forcibly people they don't see as fitting with their like master race ideas. It's like, but if those people gain ground, if they gain any political power at all, that's going to be huge problems. That's going to be a massive like problem for so many people. So it's like you have to take action. You have to sort of fight back. Otherwise, that's what the future could be. Now, obviously, yeah, it's a long way off, but it's not as long as people think, and it's not hard for the far right to gain power if we don't take enough action.
That I will concede the point that yeah, that's true that they have these ideas that do need combating, but maybe there's a better way to do it than just running up and punching someone in the face. It's of course. And I would actually say that them inciting the violence, saying that and mixed race people, they're bad. They're obviously not. I myself am 3/4 white and quarter Hispanic, but you're not going to see me run up and punch anybody and maybe this might be a bit of a false equivalency. Actually, maybe not. I remember you actually once called me childish one time. Because I called you a dickhead on Twitter. Wouldn't you say it's a bit childish to punch people, no matter how jaded their views are? Now, I do understand that, yes, again, I can see why fighting the far right is important. And it'd be kind of nice if people could, if that could continue. But you have to ask yourself: is punching them all you're going to like? It's not like punching them is going to just knock that out of them. It's not as if me running up and punching Richard Spencer is going to change anything. It's not going to change, like, unless maybe if it were to change his thinking of, wow, I got punched in the face by someone because I'm a Nazi. Well, you know what? I'm just going to leave the Nazis because I got punched. I doubt that. Now, and I'm also just going to say this. If people want to punch Nazis, regardless of whether it's legal or not, go for it. You're going to get arrested. People are going to think you're a psycho because you're just punching random people in public who are just standing there. Sure, they're saying stupid stuff, but, them saying it at the moment, keep in mind, at that moment, isn't harmful. Now, of course, letting it fester is going to cause problems, but punching them is, again, against the law, and harassing LGBT people is, of course, against the law. And I think I may have brought up a point on Twitter that you said it was worth it to break the law. I don't want to misquote you, so if you said it was something about, in that sense, it'd be justified to break the law, you have to ask why. I'm pretty sure law enforcement, again, wouldn't entirely disagree. They can't, of course, tell you that, but they have to do their job, and you'd be arrested for punching a Nazi because at the end of the day, they have to protect the public, and unfortunately, Nazis are a part of the public, and they do have to protect the Nazis, not in the sense
Yeah,
of supporting their ideas, but they are
yeah.
still human, vaguely human, but they have to
No, of
treat them
course,
like
yeah. No,
humans.
of course, like they are human, and I would never say that, oh, we should just make punching legal because that's a ridiculous idea. Like, oh, it
Yeah,
should still be illegal to just punch someone. However, I think that some things that aren't in the law, um, are things that can be broken. Like, for instance, what the Black Panthers did to protect black neighborhoods from racist police officers and the KKK. Like, what they did was technically illegal, but they saved a lot of people from being killed, lynched, attacked by the Klan. They improved the safety of those communities and drove out white supremacists who were trying to like kill them. So sometimes violence and breaking the law can produce a better outcome. Like, are you going to say that, oh well, they shouldn't have broken the law and just like debated civilly? Which, coming on to debating civilly, like when debate is good, like I really think debate would be ideal in a perfect world. However, some people debating only helps their cause. Because if you go into a debate, for instance, and the topic is like, did Jews fake the Holocaust, or like, are blacks subhuman? It's like the answer is obvious. The Holocaust is absolutely real, and
yeah,
black people are just as human as whites. But
yeah,
having that debate presents it as two equal sides, as two sides that could be right, and you have to argue for one or the other. And it's like, well, no, there's a definite wrong answer there, which should be apparently obvious to anyone. But by introducing them as regular, like regurgitating debates, by constantly allowing Nazis and the far right to drive these issues into mainstream discourse, you allow for these issues to become actual questions. So instead of asking things like, oh, how much should we tax these people? Or is it okay to have capitalism or socialism, like, which are issues where, yeah, fine, we have our opinions, but at the end of the day, they're legitimate questions, to issues that are of a racist nature inherently. And that's what debate does. It hands power, it hands an equal opinion to those who have insidious, awful views. Coming on to what you said about childishness. Now, I can't remember at all what the context was of me calling you childish.
Let me clarify there. Okay, so me and you were arguing about punching. It was either about punching Nazis or transphobia. I can't remember exactly why we were arguing on Twitter for the 50 billionth time, because Twitter arguments can be funny. But I said, blah, 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 dickhead. I called you a dickhead, and you called me childish. Like, what a nice response there when I told you to fuck off or something.
I mean, you can sort of see why, though, can't you? If that's what you said.
Well, yeah. I mean that. Like, I'm a lot more satirical on Twitter than versus real life, though. Now, I called you that. I'm not trying. I have terrible memory for today. The thing with the comparison was, you called me childish on Twitter because I called you a dickhead or something. I can kind of see why you did that, though. But and the comparison was, if it's childish for me to call you a dickhead on Twitter, which, to be fair, maybe it was a little childish. The thing is, wouldn't it be just childish to just punch people, no matter how heinous their views? And I think, and this is just from based off of memory. I remember you and your buddy Chad were trying to argue that assault is different from murder, which is true. You said in the capital punishment debate, I'll leave a link to that in my description when this is over, that the right to life, no matter how heinous the offense in question that would land someone on death row, that their right to life should not be impeded. One could probably argue that the right not to be assaulted in public for just standing there and maybe saying some stuff that is really stupid, that you're infringing on someone's right not to be assaulted.
Well, again, I would argue that just like with the inciting violence stuff, and like it's not flowing equally the same ways. It's like when I called you childish, it's like well, there was an element of childishness to it, as you even admitted. But Nazis punching a Nazi, that's not just someone impetuously swinging out. It's not like if you lost a game and you whacked the person you beat. It's like you're well, exactly. It's not that at all. Like childish would be like having a tantrum over losing a game. But what you're doing when you punch a Nazi is you're actively fighting the viewpoint they have. And when the viewpoint they have is to like threatens your whole like identity and way of life and your existence, I know I think it's absolutely valid to have physical violence against them. You mentioned you brought up the capital punishment idea and the idea that no one should have their right to life impeded. And I completely stand by that. I don't think that the state has a right to kill its own citizens at all. I'm completely against capital punishment. However, I don't think killing people is fine. I'm not saying that Nazis should be shot in the street and stuff, but thought is different. And in times of extreme, in times of in what's it called, vulnerability and political instability, there is that risk of like losing out to the Nazis and to the far right. I was going to what was I going to say?
Well, when you remember, just let me know.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. With the thing, the bit of an analogy. Do you believe human beings have a right not to be attacked in public? Like, I think that was maybe a bit of a question I should have asked. And of course, fighting their ideas is fine. And with debate, you have the ability to easily rebut a lot, or word games, rebuke, whatever, rebut the points of a Nazi, and it'd be fairly easily. And people could argue very easily that you're thought policing someone when you're just deciding, oh, okay, you think this certain way because, again, no matter how bad the viewpoint of just if you believe that mixed race people are subhuman, which they're not, I'm going to punch you. And well, yes, I will concede again. Their ideas do need fighting, but I think punching them is really not enough. Like you said. Calling the ideas dumb, even though it was just to clarify, I don't defend those people. I think I think Nazis are subhuman. Of course, they're still human, but the thing is, with punching them, like, that's not enough. Sure, calling them stupid isn't enough, and I'll agree. But punching them isn't enough. It's not like you're going to change their viewpoint just because you just whacked them in the face. Like, sure, it might feel great to just punch someone in the face who poses a threat to people, but that's not going to change their viewpoint.
No, of course, like I completely agree there. Like, of course, you don't just want to be like fighting them and then just leaving it at that. Like, absolutely not. You want to be like ensuring that the ideologically you are far ahead of the Nazis. You are saying no, Nazism is wrong and this is why. Of course, like, education is crucial. The point is though that the Nazis know their ideas are wrong. They know it would be easy to debunk like Holocaust denial and race realism. Like, these are things that have been debunked and have stood debunked for decades. They don't care about the lack of truth in their arguments. They just want them out there, and they want them considered equal and valid compared to everyone else, because they grow by gaining legitimacy. So to call it to say it's not enough is misleading, because it's not the case of solely try. It's not like punching is like a replacement for education. Education is there too, but punching is to literally hold back and stop far right violence and far right control of areas and presence in society. It's to show that society and those in it are prepared to reject and fight the far right instead of just conceding ground. It's a way of standing up against those who wish to disrupt society as the way we know it. I want to come on to something I want to say about, again, going back to Nazi Germany. If we look at the rise of Hitler, the Nazi party, they organized themselves up really effectively. They had the brown shirts, the SA initially, and then later the SS. And well, the SS actually came when they were in power, but the SA initially essentially disrupted political meetings. They fought. They went into left wing and like centre right and all sorts of political meetings and made their presence known. They fought in the controlled areas of cities, and as a result, it got their presence like really well known. People knew the far right and believed what they said. And because of the lack of opposition, because of the lack of representation of this control of discourse by the far right, we obviously saw the Nazi party gain power eventually. Hitler even admits that if his party had seen more physical action and more violence against them, he probably wouldn't have had the success that he did. And now, of course, this isn't the sole reason the Nazis rose to power. There are loads of other factors. However, one prominent one was the effectiveness of the brown shirts and the lack of opposition from those in Germany who did not obviously weren't Nazis, because whilst it obviously was a lot to it, the lack of action, the lack of credibility, the lack of seriousness that those opposed to Hitler gave Hitler, it really cost Germany, because it allowed Hitler the chance to push them forward. Like, he was arrested after the the Cap Putsch, I think, in the 1923, I want to say. But he got arrested, and then once he was let out, his party was still considered a joke. He was not regarded as a serious threat, and it essentially pushed him into power because he rose from behind ranks. He became an underdog to the leader of Germany, and obviously that was a massive problem. And it's like, well, if that's what history shows us, that a far right benefit from being not taken seriously, being allowed the chance to have their own violent, horrid forces out and just doing seizing control of stuff, then we need to learn from history and stop it from rising in the first place.
All right. I'm going to come on to a point that I feel like I should have addressed earlier. Was about the Black Panther. Yeah, Panthers.
Yeah, sure. If you do that in a second, if you just respond to the Hitler stuff.
Yeah, okay. With the Black Panthers.
No, I meant like if you just respond to what I said just now, and then afterwards you go on to your point.
All right. Okay. With
history, what do you think of what I said?
I actually will have to again concede that point. That that's very true.
Okay. Well, okay. Now you go on to what you say.
All right. Okay. With a point with Black Panthers violently resisting against the police and the KKK. The police and the KKK were actively attempting to kill people, and they were trying to fend off those who were attempting to lynch, assault, harass those people from violence. And the Nazis that are getting punched today, they're just standing there saying stuff. It would be a bit of a difference comparing. And when it comes to one thing, I will say, if the Nazi is violently attacking people and you go up and you punch him or you shoot him or you physically harm him or kill him, you were justified because that person was actively in the act of physically harming someone. Now, in the case of defending people from being physically harmed because that person that you're defending could potentially die in the act of a live physical attack, I would say, all right, you were justified because if you didn't step in during that attack, people would have died. And I will say that, yes, I can see why, because through history, yes, in a sense, if the people are saying, are going with, all right, we're going to attack people and they're in the act of attacking people, then and you fight them off physically from attacking anybody, like in an act, like for instance, let's say I was dumb enough to be a Nazi, and let's say I was attacking you physically, and some person came in and were to shoot me in the face to save your life, yeah, I would say that would be justified. But if they're just saying stuff, I still would say it wouldn't be, again, it wouldn't probably, it's still, you shouldn't punch people just because of what they're saying. Like, if they're physically going out, I think everyone can get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
All right, I don't want to repeat the same point unless like my audio lags or you might forget. And if you can't remember anything I've said, just let me know.
It's okay. Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
I don't know why I keep like I don't know why I keep forgetting what I'm saying, but and about the thing with capital punishment, I do remember you said a lot through the debate that I didn't answer your question. So you know what? Just to answer the question, because I feel like maybe I didn't, the reason I would say that it's justified for the state to execute its people, you have to, you've committed the crime, you knew it was wrong, and you didn't care. I think I may have said that, and I know you don't agree with that, and I know And with these debates, I'm not trying to change your mind. Like, if you still believe feminism is necessary, that's fine. No one dies because of that. You don't agree with me on capital punishment, that's fine. Someone does die from it, but it doesn't affect us. Nazi punching, and I'm not trying to change your opinion, but I'm just trying to get some clarifications as to why you think the way you do. With the state doing that, I see it as, well, yes, it's not a deterrent. There are just some people who truly have shown that they can't belong in society. They, quite frankly, have shown that they don't care about anybody else, and they would probably still pose a threat to the other inmates and guards. So if we're going to go with it's okay to punch Nazis because they're threats to people, and well, yes, they are threats, and yes, they do need to be opposed. Yeah, sure. And honestly, I'm just trying to. This is a bit of a debate and discussion about the ethics of Nazi punching. So I think I made the distinction that, Nazis. Yes, I couldn't care less if someone decided, hey, I'm going to go out, round up the Nazis and massacre them. If you want to do that, you know what? Fine. If that scares them enough to rethink their ideas, fine. I couldn't care less if Owen here was just to go out, round up the Nazis and treat them like they do, give them the same treatment they give to animals in certain farms. I mean, I don't like them. And a lot of things they believe in, I don't believe in, and would go against everything I believe. I don't believe that mixed race people are subhuman. They're just human, and they're just like everyone else. LGBT people, which I'm going to ask you about the plus thing in a minute, because you say it a lot, and I'm not sure what you mean by plus. They're very much human, and they help the environment a lot. And I'm not trying to tell people, hey, let's not punch Nazis. I'm just saying I don't agree with punching them. And also, of course, you're doing it at your own risk. So, I don't know how long, again, I should have a timer on me for how long I speak, but I don't know. I guess I'll set myself at a limit of 5 minutes. And for any time I get to the point before the 5-minute mark, I'll just conserve the time there.
No, it's fine, honestly. Like, you had a lot to say, so it's good that you were able to say.
I'll also monitor the chat.
Yeah, there's a few comments in there. Someone asked you a question. A few things.
Oh, okay. I'll read it. Let me get to the chat. Who asked the question, by the way?
Esper asked you about your ethnicity, and he asked you whether you were considered white or Hispanic.
If we go with just appearance, I'm considered just white. Some people usually will see the brown in my skin. Depending on if I'm like tan from the sun, it might give it away. If I'm pale from the winter, then people will just see me as white. I personally do not like it. Let's say you were just full black, not half black, half white. I'm assuming half white. I'm just assuming. I might be wrong. Are you? Because I don't like making assumptions about people.
No, are you terms to use than half black? But
okay, what terms do you want? Because
generally it's mixed race or mixed
all
race.
All right, mixed race and terms you prefer. I feel like maybe we'll disagree on that later, but mixed race. People just. Let me make sure I can see the question. Or was that just what it would be summed up as, or was that verbatim what they asked?
Summed up as it was just that.
Okay. Yeah, I am 3/4 white, a quarter Hispanic. My father's half Hispanic.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
we're getting a little bit off track here.
My bad. Go ahead.
No worries.
I just had to answer the question.
Going back to the things I have jotted down, you said that the Nazi that is not doing anything wrong, compared to the KKK who were being violent, whereas the Nazis weren't doing anything violent, gives justification to the Black Panthers, whereas there's supposedly no justification for groups like Antifa or people going to attack them. However, the presence of Nazis suggests and incites the presence of their ideas, which are violent. As Esther makes a good point in the chat. where he says that the writing of laws, the presence of those ideas, were aggressive. And whilst you don't have to be physically aggressive, um, it is the aggression is that their ideas are represented by who it is. The idea that interracial marriage and sex is a form of genocide against white people. The idea that one race of white people is superior to others, and as laughable as these ideas are, their presence there gives legitimacy to that. It's not like it's just a protest where it's like, oh, improve tax rates or like fix climate change. These positions there like are far more insidious and hateful, and their presence there is a form of violence in a way because it shows the ideas of what it's there. It's like if you saw the KKK, you know straight away, oh, that's a racist group. That's a bigoted group, and it's okay as a result to confront them because it's important to drive out groups like that from spreading their message because they do pose a threat. And they don't have to incite violence. They're clever enough to know that sometimes you don't have to incite violence straight away, but they will. If they give them a chance, they will definitely go and attack LGBT groups, or LGBT plus groups and stuff, and like minorities and all those targets of their insidious worldview. They're all under threat. So it is the presence of the Nazis is a presence and the potential for violence, which justifies it, in my opinion. You said. Sorry, you go ahead.
Okay. Their presence is violence. I'm not trying to misquote you. So if you want to clarify, their presence is. I'm not saying their presence is violence or something. Like
yeah,
a form of violence. So them just being there is a form. Actually, you know what? You're trying to say something. Go for it, man.
So essentially, whilst obviously, yeah, it's not exactly the same as physical, like actually hitting someone and stuff, but at the same time, the worldview is a violent one. The idea of, oh, get rid of the Jews, get rid of all these people, like their presence there is a danger. In the same way that if you saw a Klansman, you would be worried or I would be worried, certainly if I saw like Klansmen marching through where I live, like, because fine, they don't literally attacking you, but they do pose a threat. You know what their view is, and thus you feel threatened. It's the same thing. The Nazis' presence there is a form of violence because they like do pose that threat. They do threaten the livelihoods of everyone, and by giving them the respect of just leaving them alone and saying, "Oh, it's just free speech," yeah, they can say what they want, but they should be expect to be massively confronted. And whilst it is against the law, I don't think there is a problem with people taking violence to them because you need to.
All right. And when the judge hears people say that as they're being sentenced for aggravated battery or murder, the judge is going to say that doesn't matter. That point wouldn't matter. So
the people in these groups, they know the risks. Like if you're a member of Antifa and you're caught, then yeah, fine. But there are risks, obviously. That's why it's a brave thing to do to go and fight Nazism. But it's telling, though, that the police and others take more time and more worry over the far left and groups like that trying to combat Nazis than the actual Nazis themselves.
Yeah. No, wait, go ahead. My bad.
Anyways, essentially of course, like it is still illegal. The Nazis, their view is like horrid. Their view is incorrect. Like civil rights are directly against what Nazis want. Fascists do not like believe in the civil rights that we take for granted. Which is sort of what it's like. Their whole worldview is illegal. So doing actions like violence and going against the law to combat them is in a way justified. And yeah, it is justified. Because if you don't do that, then soon the laws will change so that I don't know, like genocide and things like the atrocities that happened in Nazi Germany, like will happen elsewhere because it was completely legal for the Nazis to do what they did to the Jews in Germany according to their own rules. So it's like, well, there's no point saying, oh, well, you have to obey the rules because the Nazis won't. When they get the chance, they'll get rid of the ones they need to and then put their awful views into practice.
All right, and here's then this kind of sounds like what this definition it would fall under: the unlawful use of violence and intimidation especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. Do you know what that definition that would fall under?
What?
Terrorism.
Terrorism.
Yes, let me clarify a few things because you asked me earlier why I was so happy that Antifa was declared a terrorist group. If they're and why I'd be excited if Black Lives Matter was. Now, keep in mind the movements, their ideas. Yeah, fine. Like, of course, opposing fascists, that's fine. And the point I'll reiterate in a second. And the reason I bring it up is a lot of people, of course, oppose terrorism. But if you're the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, and unfortunately Nazis and KKK people and all these other stupid groups, they're civilians. And you're aiming to combat Nazis. So in a sense, yeah, this would kind of fall under terrorism to just attack people. And yes, we should violently oppose them in the case when they're actually doing something violent. So then, it would fall under self-defense. And when it comes to when it was legal to Holocaust Jews, when you said that, other countries fought back against that when that was happening, and it was fortunately opposed. It was a good thing, and there were switched on people that didn't agree with Jews being holocausted or whatever. I'm glad people saw that was wrong.
But sorry to interject. Actually, no. Do you have much of your point left to say, or?
I did, but I did forget because I have no idea. So you go ahead, man.
But do you not see the problem in just saying, "Oh, people didn't agree, and eventually people fought"? Like, it doesn't matter that people eventually agree, because that's what should have happened anyway. Jews, and anyone, in fact, the Nazis viewed as undesirable, were slaughtered and killed. 6 million Jews died as a result of the Holocaust. It was too late for them, because they were killed in the concentration camps, along with LGBT people and mixed race people and political opponents, because nothing was done to stop the Nazis, because of the lack of action. And in fact, even when the camps were in knowledge of the Allied forces, many of their governments didn't actually take action in time. They didn't want to do anything about it. Or they decided not to bomb the camps, and eventually more people died as a result. To say that because of it gets resolved eventually isn't good enough, because you endanger and risk the lives of millions of people. Like, America is home to it's quite a massive population of people who are black, gay, Mexican, Jewish. Like, there's all these minorities and groups that Nazis want gone and will be targeted if we don't target Nazis first. And yeah, fine. There is terrorizing going on by groups combating Nazis, but the only people being terrorized are Nazis and the far right. Whereas with Nazis and the far right, their aim is to terrorize and eventually replace and get rid of those in society who I mentioned before, like LGBT people, black people. Women aren't targeted because they obviously need women to reproduce, but they want women back in the homes. They don't want women doing anything, because they obviously believe in traditional values. But it's true. Like, they
No. I mean, traditional values like that. That can honestly, what does that even truly mean? Because some people might not see it in the way others do, and I think it's stupid. Like, if you're a traditionalist and you believe that, if you're a woman and you don't mind cleaning the house and taking care of the kids and all that stuff, and it's your choice, fine. I mean, I don't believe people should be forced to do it, and I think it's stupid when people are like, "Oh, this is just the better way of life." For you, yeah, but shouldn't mandate it. So when I giggle, I'm not making fun of your points or anything. I want to clarify. I'm just laughing in general as to how stupid people can be. Now, all right, I'm about the targeting them first. The problem is people are going to see that, and actually I'm going to reiterate a point, is since they are just literally standing there. Like, if I saw a Klansman in my city, I'd be a bit surprised. Fortunately, I've never seen Klansmen in my city. The thing is, if they're just standing there, quite frankly, I see no need to hit them because they're literally just standing there. If they're shouting death to Jews or kill all the gays, yeah, I'd probably confront them and say and explain how stupid that is, and um, yeah, that's pretty much what I do. Um, someone in the chat, let me see. Nazis, Spencer, have learned a lesson. They're not engaging in all-out war. Okay, this comes from Bob Leonhardt. Nazis, Spencer, have learned a lesson. They are not engaging in all-out war. They are not escalating to violence. They may be suggesting that is required, but they are using restraint. Just some, and then other people.
Yes,
I'm
but
using
no, you go ahead. Sorry.
And then Esper responded, I'm using restraint as well. I've never punched a Nazi. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, I personally see that, and you know what, I'll just admit it, I honestly do not care very much. It's just I see it as there are other ways to combat them rather than just running up to them, sucker punching them in the face, and just doing, like, of course you're probably going to do more than that, just punch them, but like if they're actively attacking people, then yeah, let's go punch them. But if they're just standing there saying they're bullshit, then it would be people are going to see it's like, oh my god, like you're just running up and punching people if they don't know the proper context. But yeah, if they're actively attacking people, then yes, let's fight them. And in history, yes, it was wrong that people didn't intervene in time. But the point I would say is still that, you know, they're not attacking anybody. We can't. I mean, yes, we can do stuff to them physically and harm them.
But don't you see that? Don't you see that? You literally just said history show in history people didn't react in time, and then you're saying now, oh, we're not attacking people yet. And that guy in the chat, Bob Leonhardt, he said, oh, they're showing restraint at the moment because they know it's right. That the whole point of that is they're playing a game. They're playing the long game because they know that they're hoping that there's not going to be a lot done against them. They're hoping that they're hoping that the centrists and those who are like more sympathetic to them and more interested in going on about like quote unquote free speech and stuff, they're hoping they will give them the ground and give them the agency to eventually start the violence. Like Nazism, the far right didn't just like appear out of nowhere and like suddenly go, yeah, I've got to kill people, got to get them. Like they're smart. They play games. They're not going to appear that confrontational yet because they want to appear better. And we need to realize that we're not going to have rational like debates with them. We're not going to have rational conversations. I think, yeah, like I said earlier, like, it's important to be realistic. It's important to be educational and using good factual arguments and debating about these ideas and debunking them and stuff. But we don't need to keep on doing it. And we need to also make sure the far right aren't anywhere near political power and agency. And the way we do that is by combating them when they manifest, because their presence is a threat. If they feel they are able to just openly flaunt their far right views on the street, that's a massive problem because that shows they have legitimacy. It's like if you were going to if you were to have a protest about like veganism or like unlawful animal consumption, it's like, well, that's good because you'd want that people would be fine putting that in the open because it's like, well, what's wrong with that? If you were to go and support a football team, it's like that or soccer team, okay, there's nothing wrong with that because there's like nothing bad about it. So your presence there is not inciting violence. Nazis supporting Nazism, inherently violent, racist, awful ideology, that does suggest violence. That shows that you believe violence against people is correct, against Jewish people, minorities, LGBT plus. That's all violence that you want to enact on people. Therefore, it is completely justified. It is fine to take action because if you don't, then the violence, their views and their legitimacy will escalate, and eventually you'll reach a point where they will be attacking you and people will die and get injured. And that is what we want to avoid. Like, but all we say, oh, well, you might incentivize these people. The ultimate aim is protecting society from Nazism to avoid what happened to Germany and to eventually the world, because of obviously the World War. So that's the overall aim. I don't think you can really evade that.
All right, hold on a second. I'm going to respond to something in the chat from, if I can find it. I think he's hiding behind calling himself Hispanic. No, I'm not. If I wasn't Hispanic, I would just say I'm not a quarter Hispanic. So and you know what? At the end of the day, the only other thing I would have to say about this is, in the long run, which you brought up, in the long run, if we don't oppose them in the long run, it could fester. If you were to show up, in a sense, armed in public, but you didn't go out and just massacre the Nazis and the masses in the public, but you show up and you're armed, and the Nazis can see you're armed, that might, and over a long period of time, they might just, and I say might, and this might be, you can call it naive all you want. I don't know if you will, but maybe they would see that and say, if we do try to act out, we're going to be dead if we do anything. And you have to, actually, I'm gonna let you respond to that point. Go ahead.
Well, I disagree. I don't think that because the whole point of combating them is to get them off the streets, and if you make Nazism something that is not a legitimate idea that can just be out in the open, and obviously eventually get rid of it. But people aren't allured to Nazism if Nazism is viewed as something that can just be an open goal. Like, you don't the whole point is that you don't want Nazis maintaining their presence and being a threat. You want them gone. You want them to fight them off the streets. So no, our society, we reject Nazism. And the far right, they don't care, like, if they know lots of people hate them, but their whole point is they want to be able to say, yeah, these people hate us, but we're legitimate, we have a presence, and then eventually they will start fighting. They know that their whole motive, as I've said, is to erase people, to be violent towards other people. Therefore, their intentions are already clear. It's just they're playing the long game. They're being strategic and not obviously just going out and attacking people yet. We need to change the narrative that says, oh, violence is always wrong, because violence is wrong, and in rational times that'd be perfect. But Nazis need to be fought. The more pressing issue is that if we allow the far right to gain more traction, people will die. People will be targeted who are at risk from the far right and from racist ideas and sexist ideas and xenophobic and homophobic ideas. Like, we need to protect marginalized groups from these people. And no matter how you phrase it, the Nazis' end goal is violence. The far right need their violence against others to enact their ideas. So we need to fight them, otherwise we'll end up losing.
All right, and your audio did lag a bit about violences, and then it lagged for several seconds. But about the whole when they start fighting, honestly, you could, when they do start fighting, then yeah, again, you could, when they start fighting, then again you can attack them when they do start fighting it. And with actually, no, that's all I'd have to say on that point. And honestly, I somewhat actually will agree that, you know what, if they're going to hold their presence in public, they are, like, of course, you punching them, you put yourself at risk of getting killed, getting injured, or arrested. And I was surprised you didn't bring this up, that they themselves put themselves at risk by saying what they say in public.
Of course.
And I would encourage the public, in my opinion, that if these groups, for instance, let's say the KKK came to my city and they were attacking people of color, then yeah, since they're actively doing it, make them eat lead, shoot them, and if they die, so be it. But them just standing there, again, and I've already explained that, them just standing there, I don't see as much of a threat. And of course, if you want to, combating them is of course fine, but them just standing there isn't the biggest threat at the moment. Of course, always oppose them. That's of course agreeable. But when they start, if they're calling for violence, and like if one of them said let's go and Holocaust mixed race people, then of course, yeah, then all right, they're saying they're going to do it, so
Do you, I mean, firstly, like they did, Nazis already have done a Holocaust, and yeah, it was Jews were obviously
no, I mean
meant by it,
today.
but yeah, but that's their end goal. The whole point, the whole reason they call themselves Nazis is because they believed in what the Nazis of the 1930s stood for. They continue those views on today. But you're saying, oh well, when they start fighting, that's when you fight. Well, what good is that? Like, people are already going to be dead by then. There's already going to be mass problems for society then. Why not start now? Why not learn from our mistakes and actually address the issue now and stop the night of broken glass happening again? Stop the burning of synagogues and of places of worship for other religions and stuff. Stop the mass burning of books. For instance, like we would be loads of trans research and LGBT research and books and literature was all burnt by the Nazis because they viewed their race as inherent and stuff. Imagine if that happens now. Imagine if people are targeted like that today, and it's not that far away. Look at, for instance, I know obviously it's only the internet, but it's still a massive place. Like, look at what goes on YouTube today with like the LGBT plus pride like video for celebration, like mass downvoted, all these Nazis in the comments like saying really disgusting homophobic stuff. That stuff is able to be said online because of the growth of our right. Imagine saying something like, oh, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, gays should die, like a few years ago, and you'd be laughed at because, believe it or not, things were actually better online a few years ago. Not perfect, obviously, but things are better. There was more dissenting voices from that awful narrative than there are now. Now there are massive far-right presences online, as I've shown on Twitter. But the real problem is that people are far right more and more are feeling they can do this in public, and that represents a threat. So to say, oh, we'll start fighting when they start fighting, is just completely defeatist because it's already allowed them the upper hand because they know they want to be fighting, they want the violence. Eventually, obviously, they want it when they're in the right position. But why not get them before this all happens? Why not to prevent the loss of any more damage or lives or whatever, and attack the Nazis now and stop history from repeating itself?
All right, and about the whole online thing, quite frankly, that Pride video, whether you like it or not, is relevant. The fact it got mass downvoted is not that big of a deal. And Nazis in the comment section, how do you know they're Nazis? Like, they of course could just troll you and say, "Oh, I'm a Nazi," even though they're probably full of shit. So about the whole online thing, yeah, people can talk trash online and call themselves things they're probably not in real life just to troll you. So when it comes to online, I don't see the present because people of course could lie easily and say, "Oh, I'm a Nazi," when they're not. So about the whole online thing, I would say, don't take them too seriously online. Now, unless you can prove that yes, this person is a definite Nazi, like if Richard Spencer had a YouTube account, all right, yeah, there's and yeah, I'm not saying there's no Nazis on the internet, like that would be ridiculous. There are Nazis on the internet, unfortunately, and you know what? Quite frankly, I'm actually going to have to say, just out of honesty, and actually, you know what? Let's just fight him. I'm just trying to go from a place of we should fight them without having to resort.
Where I'm coming from, or you?
Yeah. Let me explain.
Sorry.
I was coming from a place, and to be fair to you, I actually did cut you off a lot in the first debate, which my bad, and the second debate was seemed a bit rushed.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, like just my bad. Okay. I was just trying to come from a place of, we can fight them without always having to resort to violence. We don't always have to go with violence. Like people say, violence is never the answer, and actually sometimes yes, it is. And you know what? When it comes to people and saying debate them, they're not going to care. When I walked away from the first debate, yeah, my mind wasn't changed, but it was thought-provoking. The second debate, same thing. This debate, yeah, it's very thought-provoking. And you know what? Yeah, I actually will actually change my stance on this and say, you know what, let's fight them. Yes, they do pose a risk, and your points actually did make sense. So you know what, I actually will agree with you there.
Well, I'm
And I
glad.
do yeah, and to everyone in the chat, look, I'm not defending these people. I'm not saying Nazism's cool. Race realism is a real thing, and I actually did wholeheartedly agree with your race realism video. It is a very garbage ideology, especially and some of your recent uploads are actually pretty good. I think we did agree on through Twitter DM about talking about transphobia a little bit. If you want to go there with that.
Uh, yeah,
All right.
only briefly. I mean, I think it's probably you should probably save it for another video because we've gone on for an hour already. I wanted to say that you do raise some good points. That debating
Yeah.
and conversing ideas and not always using violence is important to tackle the additional ideas. Because understanding why Nazism is wrong, understanding why race is a social construct and not some inherent value system and stuff. That's really important. It's important to understand why just as important as it is to understand like what and stuff. Obviously, you need to understand reasoning and stuff. But
Yeah.
as you have said, as you gladly agreed with me on, the Nazis
Yeah.
represent a threat, and it's important to deal with threats.
Yeah, and one thing I do remember from the War Corps versus Kevin Logan debate, this is what they talked about. I actually did kind of have to agree, and War Corps is saying we can defeat them with free speech. I'm pretty sure it's pretty obvious to why. And you know what? I think we can save the whole transphobia and the topic in general for another discussion.
Yeah.
But with, all right, just checking out the chat. Anyway, with, and yes, you did bring up a good point, and with the Black Panthers and when they were fighting the police, the KKK and other white supremacists. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if they didn't, it would have been it would have gone far worse than it should have. It shouldn't have gone anywhere bad in the first place, but and yes, we can take a look at horrible events throughout history, and I will agree. And with these debates, the reason actually I asked you about like what topics you talked about a long time ago, and you asked me why, and I never answered. The reason I challenged you to the first debate is because I looked at the world. I looked at things and said, you know, I want to have my opinions challenged, and you said you're always open to that. So I said let's converse. And at first, I thought you were going to refuse because I was, and I was, I'm a few years younger than you, so I thought you would refuse, but you were open to it, and it was good conversing there. And with Nazis, they don't care; they're very close-minded. And I mean, if I saw a Nazi, like, and the problem is with one thing I should have brought up earlier about the punching Nazis is the problem is. And I know you might cringe at this, but people throw the word Nazi and fascist around a lot. And the problem is people don't really explain how to determine who is a Nazi and who isn't. Like if they hold views like, "Oh, whites are superior. We should just massacre mixed race people." Like of course, like that is probably a Nazi. And I'm gonna check the official definition so I don't like. Okay, like a Nazi is a member of the noun is a member of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which I know a lot of people fight you about socialism, saying, "Oh, well, Nazi has socialist in it," which I would like to hear your explanation of that. German Workers' Party, and the adjective is of or concerning the Nazis or Nazism. So that's what a Nazi would be. So go ahead.
I can explain the socialist part. It is socialism is the liberation of the working class. Hitler perverted this to turn it into the liberation of the Aryan race and the German class. So instead of being liberation of just class and removing class as a thing and having everyone as equal, it's the idea that the Germans are liberated from Untermensch, like Jews and undesirables and that sort of thing. But also Hitler, in interviews and in his journals, said that the party could have also been called the National Liberals Party because the word was a popular buzzword, given the popularity of communism and other far left ideologies, given what was going on in the world at that time. So in Russia, they'd had a revolution in the near past. So it was not socialism at all. Hitler detested socialists, and socialists were rounded up and taken to concentration camps with everyone else he just didn't like. These Nazi party used capitalism to advance their the state of their nation. So, for instance, they used private companies to run a lot of their infrastructure. They used it was obviously controlled by the government, but private companies were the ones benefiting from it. It was still people selling their labor hours to be given a paltry wage for it, whilst the people on top got the benefits. And obviously, this is coupled with this control, the authoritarian regime, which is fascism. So fascism is authoritarian capitalism, in my opinion, and it's pretty much always been combined with nationalism, racism, white supremacy. Those things are essentially the whole point. And someone in the chat mentions a really good point here, which is that Hitler destroyed unions, which unions are pretty much like a very big symbol of the left, and Hitler despised them, got rid of them. So I think any suggestion that the Nazis are left wing is just complete garbage, essentially.
Like
sorry to sort of interject, but I feel as though we're sort of drifting away from the initial topic. So I think we'll sort of wrap it up here.
Yeah.
If you want to make like sort of the last few points.
No. If you want to go ahead with closing statements, you start off with closing statements.
Well, I mean, I think given that you've already sort of said that you sort of have changed your view a little bit because of this, then I think we can both sort of do it, really.
Yeah. All right. You go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Okay. Well, no worries. So I think it's really great that we sort of come to a consensus that fighting Nazis, whilst in an ideal world it wouldn't be necessary, is sort of necessary because of the way Nazis operate and because of the danger they possess. And that whilst we can hopefully in an ideal world have conversations and fluent discussions about the way people think and the way the world is, sometimes actions are more important and louder than words. And if we are to truly beat the far right, we need to show society that no, there's no tolerance for insipid racist ideas. And the way to force them out of discourse and out of society is to fight those who perpetrate them.
Yeah. Yeah, that I'll agree with. So with my my closing statement on this whole thing, which is actually this is shorter than the second and first debate by a long shot. And I think I may have admitted a little bit, of course, leaving them alone, actually will cause those ideas to fester, and if you don't challenge them, they could grow, and it could lead to problems. And with a talking point about not punching Nazis would be about well, they're already emboldened, so you're just pushing them even further. That was a point I think I may have made earlier, but I think we already went over that. And it would honestly with race realism and all these other garbage ideas, it is kind of sad that even in the 21st century, you have to still go after. Oh, just in the chat. Anyway, yes, you have to debunk something that's obviously something stupid like race realism, Nazism, which a lot of people unfortunately died because of the Holocaust. Estimates are around 6 or 11 million, and I believe 50 to 80 million died in World War II as a whole. And it's unfortunate we had to lose so many people, which may have been around 2% of the population with World War II as a whole. It was unfortunate that we had to lose, around that time period at least, the population's grown since. It was unfortunate we had to lose so many human beings who there was nothing wrong with. They were just of a different religion or sexual orientation, which you said was a race, which was, of course, a mistake. It was unfortunate, yes, we had to lose so many people because of the bad actions of an ideology which is which is very toxic, and yeah. And again, because I feel like I'm gonna have to point this out. No, I don't defend Nazis because their ideas are great. No, their ideas are psychopathic and just, of course, stupid. It was just in the sense of at what point do we say, all right, well, your ideas, we're not going to punch you over these ideas, but we'll punch you over these ideas. I think that was maybe what a point I would have brought up earlier. That was just my main concern with if we start punching people over some ideas, at what point will we say, all right, we're okay, you hold these horrible ideas that we should do X, Y, and Z to X, Y, and Z groups, but at what point would we say, all right, we're not going to punch you over your ideas? And with the movements Antifa and Black Lives Matter, if they wouldn't violently hurt people just because some cops went out and did some stupid shit and hurt people, I think maybe more people would be sympathetic to the movement. We of course can have the chat later about BLM, Antifa, and transphobia and all these other words that people will use.
Sort of like
yeah,
long
yeah.
discussion. But anyway, no, it's been a great stream. I hope everyone in the chat enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it myself. I hope you enjoyed it, S-Man.
I did.
Excellent.
right.
Well, we'll see you all next time. I think I'm having a debate with Zachary Edwards tomorrow. Well, today in Britain, actually, because it's now 1:17 in the morning. And I'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Have a good night, everybody.
Yep.